So the first question that everyone gets in their head, is certification really necessary? The short answer is yes. The long answer is yes, of course, and let's get to the facts, okay? I believe certifications are useful even without hands-on experience, but it's more about how much you learn as you prepare for your certification. The goal of getting certified makes you want to know the topic in depth and not just add AWS to your resume or any other certification. The desire to pass the exam made me revisit various topics over and over again, and this is what helped me find more about certain AWS services. Soon we learn not only the services that are really useful for certification, but also for day-to-day work. Useful guide for you to learn in practice and even obtain an international certificate from the vendor, from the manufacturer that attests to your knowledge and experience. So this is why international certificate and pass IT certification exam is really important. AWS, Amazon Web Services, is a leading cloud provider according to the Magic Quadrant and dominates the global cloud infrastructure and has a market share equivalent to the next big four, three cloud providers combined. We are talking about Microsoft Azure, GCP, from Google, and even so many others. So AWS offers several certifications. AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate is one of the associated exams that anyone can take before getting into more specialized certifications. It's no secret that AWS certifications are in high demand, and for good reason. Cloud computing is a very hot topic that it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and there is currently a shortage of talent to fill that gap. The interesting dichotomy about how many jobs and certifications is that most jobs require certifications to demonstrate your competency, but most certifications recommend having hands-on work experience to be better prepared to pass them. So you might be thinking to yourself, how can I break into the IT market and get certified when all job advertisement needs certifications, but all certifications recommend having work experience? The good news is that experience is a subjective term. Also, if you can demonstrate relevant skills in a chat with the interviewer, because cloud computing jobs are in high demand, most employers are willing to train you on exactly what they require of you. A good employer will anyway. And this is what actually happened to me when I first got my first cloud computing job. It was back in 2016, and I wasn't certified in AWS. I even heard just a little about AWS certifications, but I studied a lot. I watched lots of videos. I read about what is cloud computing, what were the main concepts, and how to shift, how to enter on that market. So let's go. What is cloud computing? Getting started with the cloud can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. The first step is to understand the basics. We have to learn what the cloud is, how it works, and the benefits. Next, we will look at the different types of cloud computers and the basic cloud service to help you start making sense of large amounts of data, innovate faster, handle sudden changes in demand, and much more. The advantage of the cloud: scalable and high performance. Think about those two, scalable and high performance. Your application can scale up or down based on your demand using AWS, auto-scaling, and elastic tools like load balancing. Backed by Amazon's massive infrastructure, you have access to compute and storage resources whenever you need them. On this journey, you have the opportunity to reduce costs, move faster, develop new skills, and provide more reliable and globally available services to your customers. Companies that haven't yet started on their journey to cloud computing are considering how they will introduce the cloud into their existing environments. So, what is AWS certification? AWS certification is nothing more than a test that you can take online wherever from the comfort of your home or at an accredited training center. And the certification exam is very similar to any exam you might have taken. It is formed by a set of questions with multiple choice answers to be done in a given time. So, an accredited training center, an ATC, it's nothing more than a place that you go within your home if you are in a big city or not, or you can do it online at any time, 24 hours a day, depending on the available schedules. So, AWS certification types. Choosing the AWS certification path that's right for you depends on where you are starting and where you want to end up. So, if you're new to AWS, if you're new to cloud computing, or if you are completely new to information technology, start with the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. This is the very basic introductory certification from AWS that will give the overview that you need to start. From there, those looking to master AWS may want to earn 3 basic AWS certifications. Those 3 associated exams: Architect, Sales Ops, and Developer. Take a skill test, self-assessment tool to identify your knowledge or skill gaps and the path you want to take. Those free resources you can find at the Amazon website. AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. At this certification level, you must demonstrate knowledge of how to design, manage, and deploy AWS applications and tools. IT professionals earning this certification must have the ability to design and deploy highly scalable systems available on AWS and understand the concepts of security, disaster recovery, and troubleshooting. While not required, it is recommended that those seeking this certification have at least 1 year of hands-on experience designing and deploying highly fault-tolerant and scalable AWS systems. But of course, it is recommended. This is not mandatory. You can, of course, start your study right away and pass that certification in 2 or 3 months. I studied about 2 to 3 months and I passed the Architect Associate. AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate. This certification provides knowledge of operations and deployment of AWS services and architecture, including data migration and application deployment. AWS Certified Developer Associate. This certification provides IT professionals with code-level knowledge and understanding for designing, developing, and maintaining AWS applications. But the questions that can come to your head right now: do I need coding skills to pass AWS Certified Developer? No, you don't. I passed that certification and I have no programming skills. I don't understand any coding. And I am right here, right now, teaching you how to pass those certifications, okay? So don't worry about coding skills. In an age where all thoughts, information, and documented process are available on the internet, there is no reason you can't acquire the relevant skills yourself and not have to work directly with them. Does having work experience in a company help? I am absolutely not here to debate that actually having a few years of experience working in the cloud with a company will get you a better job than one you already have. However, in this video, I want to talk to you about what it takes to land your first job working with the cloud computing, having relevant certifications so you can build your skills much faster. So let's look at some strategies you can employ for just a few hours a day that will over time get you where you want to be, okay? Use free or paid courses to study for your AWS certification. When you think about dedicating time to a course or a platform that will help train your skills to pass exams, make sure it includes all 3 of the following. First, lectures to introduce you to topics and finer details, hands-on labs to guide you on how actually do things you want to learn. Second, challenges to give you a sandbox with a set of problems to solve on your own. This is an invaluable way to gain your own experience through trial and error. Of course, you can have your own sandbox on your AWS environment with the free tier, so keep that on your head. A quick Google or YouTube search for how to pass AWS Solutions Architect Associate exam or what to know before taking the SysOps Administrator Associate exam will give you countless results. And third, and no less important, as with anything else, some platforms will be better than others. So the free options is always good. And if you're new, I would start to figure out what you like and what niche you want to break into. However, if you already have some experience, you really need to consider more personalized training through a paid option. Accept that you will never know everything and specialize. When you try to understand how many different cloud computing services there are, the nuances of them all, and the endless combinations you can do with them, it gets a little overwhelming. So consider focusing on a specific area and becoming as proficient in it as possible. Not only will you learn more and become a subject matter expert, but since you are so well versed in a specific area, security for example, you'll be much more valuable to organizations. After all, when you apply to work for an organization, you will likely be working in a certain field or with a certain technology most of the time. So don't try to handle everything on your hand, okay? If over time you want to go down the path of learning all AWS certification, be my guest, but be prepared for this process to take years. The goal here is to get a job working in the cloud computing market so you can get real world experience as quickly as possible and start becoming a seasoned professional. So, intentionally take some time off. Cloud computing is not as simple as 1 plus 1 is 2. There are too many complexities to try and understand and commit to memory. Do you know how to efficiently deploy different database services across multiple regions, or how to define account-wide control policies or services within an organization? It is important to let yourself recharge. The mind was not made to be a machine. That's why we have computers working for us, because our minds are not error-free, fatigue-proof machines. So try to understand that. The cloud is not going anywhere and you need to avoid having a scarcity mindset. In other words, always remember that there will be always opportunities for you to take on, and there will always be more companies and positions to apply for and to work for with cloud computing. Take a break from your work days and a few times a year to put something on your calendar to look forward and motivate you to work even harder. Personally, I like the months of December and January and July to take some time with my kids. So, personally, I try to spend, for example, 1 to 2 hours to study. First, start reading some ebooks or try to see some reinvent videos from AWS, and of course, try to equalize that with some tests. So I encourage you to apply for the AWS free tier account, so you have your own sandbox environment to test. And when we talk about real world experience, is nothing more than the labs that you try, that you exercise. So exercise as much as you can. For example, when you learn how to launch an EC2 instance or create an S3 buckets, try to create this by yourself on your own AWS account with the free tier. So you won't spend any money. It's the free tier, of course. And if you practice this over and over and over time, it will kind of scale your experience training. So this is not different. This is no different from the work that you'll be actually doing in your daily basis. So why is it worth passing an AWS certification exam in 2023? Now that you understand the different types of AWS certifications, you are probably wondering whether any of them are worth doing in these challenging times. So below, next we will talk about some reasons why AWS certifications are super important this year. So first, cloud computing experience is essential for IT professional. Second, one of the main reasons AWS certifications are worthwhile is because cloud computing is inevitable for IT professionals. Breakthrough technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning are driving every industry to the cloud. So in review, consolidating all these aspects, we needed to understand something. Whether you are from IT or not, you need to understand cloud computing. Cloud computing is everywhere right now. Even if you're using your iPhone, your Android device, if you are using your MacBook, you are using, for example, Google Drive, you are using OneDrive from Microsoft, you are using Dropbox, you are using any of these services for storage. So this is cloud computing. If you are accessing your internet banking account, this is cloud computing. Everything is cloud computing right now. According to Forbes, most IT professionals believe these cutting-edge technologies play a significant role in the adoption of cloud computing. Gaining experience in cloud computing, especially in AWS services, is a necessity for IT specialists today and for the foreseen future. So, doesn't matter where you are in the world. It does matter if you want to achieve a high salary in the IT industry in dollars. You can achieve, of course, $10,000 a month without any difficulty if you pass an AWS certification, because it's a high salary in the market right now. So if you want to gain a competitive advantage and stand out from the crowd, you cannot ignore AWS certifications. So demand for AWS skills is outpacing supply. Finding people with cloud computing skills has become difficult for employees around the world. According to a recent report from Forbes and Gartner, around 60% of cloud computing job postings require AWS-related skills. Those numbers indicate that AWS skills and knowledge are in high demand and will continue to be in the future. Learning AWS is therefore one of the best ways to advance your career and ensure that you get a valuable job at your dream company. AWS is widely used in cloud adoption. Another reason why you should start your cloud computing journey with AWS is that AWS controls about a third of the infrastructure as a service market. There's more than the next two cloud providers, Google Cloud Provider, GCP, and Microsoft Azure combined. If this trend continues, which experts believe it will, we will likely see exponential growth in AWS for years to come. Therefore, earning an AWS certification is a safe career choice for IT professionals and those looking to expand their business and skills on this highly regarded platform. There is an increase in migration from the cloud to AWS. SMBs as well, established organizations across all industry sectors are increasingly moving to the cloud. Cisco projects that global data center IP traffic will reach about 20.6 zettabytes by the end of this year. That translates about 1.7 zettabytes per month. In addition, the worldwide market for public cloud services is expected to reach 17.5%. Massive corporate migration doesn't come without its fair share of challenges. To solve them, there is a pressing need for professional and customized solutions. This has led to an increased demand for cloud specialists who can help companies smooth the transition from conventional IT infrastructure to the cloud. In-depth knowledge and know-how of cloud platforms, especially AWS, has become a valuable asset for organizations across all industries, and this is one of the reasons why you should consider an AWS certification today. Certification validates credibility and experience. Trust, credibility, and experience are significant factors when it comes to providing valuable potential clients and employers. These are the factors that help AWS professionals excel and build lasting relationships. A great way to establish credibility, trust, and experience is to produce a certificate that shows you have the skills in a specific area. By holding AWS certification, professionals tell their clients and potential employees that they have undergone rigorous training and have the ability to successfully implement the given tasks. Other than that, it will provide your employees that you are committed to IT career. With proof of experience, there is no reason you can't land a lucrative job with your dream organization. Don't make the mistake of overlooking the importance of AWS certification. AWS skills are very well compensated. Individuals with AWS certification top the list of highest paid professionals. Many AWS jobs offers a highly five-figure salary. As you think about improving your skills in these challenging times, choose an AWS certification you want to take, find great AWS certification training courses, study hard and pass your exam, and you too can become an expert in cloud computing. So, about the exam, there are two types of questions on the exam: multiple choice, which has one correct answer and three incorrect answers, and multiple answers, which has multiple correct answers. This exam reports a minimal scale of 100 points and a maximum of 1,000 points, passing with a passing score of 720 points. There are 65 questions on the exam, and there is also some unscored content on the exam, about 5 questions that will be used for statistical purposes other than does not affect the score. Unanswered questions are scored as incorrect. There is a penalty for guessing. You have 140 minutes to complete and it costs $150. But those minutes will depend on the region that you are, what your language is. You can get an additional 30 minutes if you are not a native English speaker, and the cost will depend on your region. So check AWS website before, okay? If you have taken any other AWS certification, you will receive the coupon as an exam benefits with 50% off the next exam. So, where to register for your exam and schedule? Of course, you need to create an AWS training and certification account where you can schedule and manage your exam, certification history, access your digital badges, download your certificate and certification benefits, and so many others. Now you can take all AWS certifications from home, and you just need to select Person View when scheduling the exam. So how to train? There are several online platforms where you can train. Of course, you can start looking for that on YouTube or Google, but I highly recommend start with the AWS website and AWS YouTube channel, because there are countless materials that you can start studying for free. And if you have been familiar with the cloud and AWS for at least 6 months, you don't need to start with the basic exam. You can go, for example, for the architecture or for the developer or for the CISO. But in my personal opinion, you should do the cloud practitioner for testing purposes. And all you need to do is, of course, refer to the AWS documentation for deployment, for security, for development with AWS services, refactoring, monitoring, and troubleshooting. Before the exam, you can cancel or schedule your exam up to 24 hours before the scheduled appointment with no additional fees. The exam is available through online proctoring, so you don't have to travel to the nearby testing center to take your exam. Go through all the concepts one or more time before the exam. So, during the exam, as it is an online proctoring exam, you need to provide your ID before the exam. They usually send you the link via a text message where you can submit, for example, your driver's license or some other form of ID. Once verified, you must close all browser tabs and download the necessary exam tools to start your exam. You have the time allowed to complete the exam, and of course, it's a lot of time. It's more than 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. So you don't have to rush, and take your time to check your answers. If you are unfamiliar with the question, are unsure of the answer, please mark it for review and come back later. Of course, you can do that. You can also view all questions and navigate to any questions you like before submitting your exam. So, some tips and tricks. Download the study guide for the AWS exam I have on my website, and review the AWS documentations and the frequently asked questions. Start your AWS free tier account to practice what you learn from this documentation. It helps you muscle your memory. Write down some important concepts or keep flashcards while preparing for the exam so that you can go over them before the exam. Although this is the new version of the exam, the core concept this exam covers remains the same, so you don't need to worry. Imagine yourself as an architect and how you will solve the issues if you present the problem by applying AWS best practice and the well architecture framework. Read as much AWS documentations and the FAQs as much as possible. The FAQs are frequently asked questions, as they are updated all the time. Be sure to read them before the exam as well. Read the white paper called Well Architecture Framework. Like most questions are based on the design principles, and most of the questions are about three-tier architecture using EC2, VPCs, and databases. So learn how we can use, for example, subnets, multi-AZ, security groups, network ACLs, elastic load balancing, outscaling, and secure system. Understand how we create users, groups, and implement access and security management with AWS IAM. IAM roles are a very important concept that you need to understand exactly when we use roles and when we use users. You can, of course, see questions like policy documents based on explicitly deny and allow statements and have you select user access based on that. You don't need to memorize anything for this exam. For example, how many instance types for EC2 and etc. All you need is to understand what all these services do and their features. It is important to remember that some services are highly available by default, for example, elastic load balancers, and some are not, like EC2. To make it easier to answer questions based on design of highly available architecture, you need to understand that. Learn the difference between highly available and fault tolerant and how to design your system that way. Understand the global AWS infrastructure and how it helps systems to be highly available and fault tolerant. Understand how ELB, elastic load balancing, runs across availability zones to distribute traffic, and EC2 auto invocation helps your applications to be elastic. Learn the difference between application load balancer, network load balancer, and the classic load balancer. Understand the VPC architecture and how EC2 instances communicate to and from the internet using the Amazon Internet Gateway Service. Understand the scenarios why we use NAT Gateway and Bastion instance. Know the difference between security groups and network access control lists. Understand how many ways you can securely connect to your VPC. Amazon's database engine and storage options such as Amazon Aurora, Amazon RDS, Amazon DynamoDB, and so many others, and how you choose them according to your features, to your needs, and the different scenarios. Recall what fault-tolerant services like Route 53, DynamoDB, Amazon S3, Amazon RDS are, and how these services help build fault-tolerant systems. Understand the EC2 instance store such as EBS, EFS, and instance store and what scenarios they are used in. For example, if you want to persist data after instance termination, which option would you choose? Understand how we can encrypt the data and create snapshots. Learn how to transfer data from one account to another using AWS Snowmobile and AWS Snowball. Learn what AWS organizations are and how we can use them for cross-account access. Reach as much documentation as possible about CloudWatch service and keep in mind these scenarios in which you would choose these services, especially when using CloudWatch custom metrics. Understand Amazon FSx and when to use it. Understand how CloudFront works with Amazon Edge locations to improve application performance, and how we can, of course, use AWS WAF to filter and secure ad locations. Understand decoupling services like SQS, SNS, SYF, Kinesis, etc., and how exactly in each scenario each one will fit. Understand the difference and understand when to use long pooling, timeout visibility, and so many others. Learn about fan-out scenario with SQS and SNS and how we can use SQS to reduce the bottleneck scenario. And not less important, understand Amazon S3 and Glacier differences. Learn about the different types of storage classes and their S3 durability. Know that you can do static web hosting with S3 and other features like encryption, versioning, lifecycle policies, bucket policies, URL pre-signed, and so many others. Find out when we can use S3 transfer acceleration. Discover all the AWS services that connect to your on-premises infrastructure with cloud infrastructure like AWS Storage Gateway. Understand in which scenarios we use AWS Elastic Beanstalk and its supporting platforms. Know the deployment types such as blue, green, continuous, and so many others. And understand where to use each one of those. And of course, learn about ECS and EKS, the microservices concept, and what to use. And please don't forget to learn that CloudTrail is about API monitoring and AWS Config is for asset configuration and change management. So I hope you enjoyed this review and I hope you get certified soon. So if you have any questions, please let me know on the comments. Have a nice day.